Chapter 1: The Merchant's Challenge. In the heart of Persia, nestled among the golden sands and the bustling market squares, stood a town whose prosperity was the pride of the kingdom. Its streets were lined with merchants from distant lands, offering silks, spices, and rare treasures. The town was known far and wide for its wisdom, thanks to a judge whose reputation for fairness and insight had spread across the region. His name was Arosh, a man who had seen the rise and fall of fortunes, understood the complexities of human nature, and could discern the truth in even the most tangled of situations. He was neither swayed by wealth nor intimidated by power, but he always ruled with compassion and justice. Among the many merchants who came to the town, one stood out, not just for his wealth, but for his arrogance. His name was Malik, and he was a merchant of considerable renown. His caravans traveled the length and breadth of Persia, bringing goods that were sold for great profit. Malik's wealth had grown to such an extent that he believed himself to be above everyone else. He wore fine robes, adorned himself with jewels, and flaunted his riches whenever possible. In his mind, the townspeople owed him respect simply because of his affluence. Malik's pride, however, was not content with his wealth alone. He longed for power, a power that only the wise judge seemed to hold. Arosh's impartiality, his ability to bring fairness to even the most complex matters, irked Malik. In his eyes, anyone who could command such respect without wealth or status was an affront to everything he believed in. Malik thought to himself, if wealth is the true measure of power, then I should be the one revered in this town, not a humble judge. One day, while strolling through the marketplace, Malik overheard a group of merchants discussing the latest judgment delivered by Arosh. The conversation was filled with admiration for the judge's wisdom, and as Malik listened, a sense of jealousy began to brew within him. His arrogance took over, and he had an idea, a plan to prove that his intellect and wealth far surpassed the judge's wisdom. With a determined look in his eye, Malik gathered a group of his most trusted associates and approached the judge's residence. Arosh, who was sitting at the edge of a small garden, reading over some legal matters, looked up as the merchant arrived. "Judge Arosh," Malik began, his voice dripping with condescension, "I have heard much about your wisdom. It is said that you can solve any problem, no matter how difficult. I, however, believe I can present you with a challenge that even you cannot solve." Arosh, ever composed, raised an eyebrow. "And what kind of challenge would that be, Malik?" The merchant smiled, the gleam of arrogance shining in his eyes. "I will pose to you a riddle, a question that will require not only wisdom but also great insight to answer. If you solve it, I shall reward you with a great treasure. But if you fail, I will take your place as the judge of this town, for I believe my wealth and intellect surpass yours." The judge did not flinch, his demeanor remaining calm and serene. He had encountered many such challenges before, often from those seeking to prove themselves superior, but Arosh knew that each challenge carried with it an opportunity to impart wisdom, to teach both the challenger and the onlookers a valuable lesson. He had long understood that true power did not lie in wealth or status, but in the ability to guide others towards understanding. "Very well," Arosh replied, his voice steady. "I accept your challenge, Malik. But remember, the reward will not be the only thing at stake here. Let us begin." The crowd that had gathered around them grew in number, curious to see the outcome of this unusual challenge. People from all walks of life, from the lowliest of traders to the wealthiest of merchants, stood in anticipation, eager to witness the interaction between the proud Malik and the revered Judge Arosh. The air was thick with excitement, as everyone knew that something important was about to unfold. Malik, savoring the moment, cleared his throat before speaking. "Here is the riddle, Judge Arosh. I hold a bird in my hand. It is alive, yet it can be killed if I choose to crush it. It can be set free, yet it can also be trapped if I decide to do so. Tell me, what is the bird I hold, and what will you do with it?" The crowd gasped, for the question seemed impossible to answer. It was a test of wit, of logic, and most importantly, of judgment. Malik's smirk grew wider as he watched the judge's face, waiting for a sign of confusion or hesitation. This was a riddle he was sure no one could solve. In his mind, he had already won, and the town would soon fall under his rule. Arosh stood still, his eyes narrowing as he thought. He did not rush to speak, for he understood that the essence of the challenge was not in the answer to the riddle, but in the lesson it would impart. He had heard riddles like this before, designed to trap the unwary in a maze of their own making. But Arosh was no ordinary judge. He had learned long ago that wisdom often came from the quiet moments of reflection, not from quick answers or brash decisions. The crowd, which had been eagerly awaiting the judge's response, grew restless. Some whispered to one another, speculating on what Arosh would say. Others cast sideways glances at Malik, who looked on smugly, certain that his intellect had bested the judge. After a long pause, Arosh finally spoke, his voice calm yet firm. "The bird you hold in your hand, Malik, is neither alive nor dead. It is not free, nor is it trapped. It is, in truth, whatever you choose to make of it. For the power to give it life or death, freedom or imprisonment, lies not in my hands, but in yours." Malik blinked, momentarily stunned. The answer was not what he had expected. The judge had not given him a simple reply, nor had he been tricked into offering a straightforward solution. Instead, he had shown Malik that the true answer to the riddle lay in the understanding that life itself, and the power to shape it, rests not in external forces, but in the choices one makes. Chapter 2: The Riddle of the Merchant. The crowd stood in stunned silence, the weight of Judge Arosh's words sinking deep into the hearts of those who had gathered. Malik, who had been so certain of his victory, now found himself momentarily disarmed. His chest swelled with indignation, but the judge's calm demeanor made him hesitate. There was no question that Arosh had spoken with profound wisdom, but Malik refused to accept that a man of such humility could possess the insight he believed to be his own privilege. "Well," Malik said, his voice tinged with frustration, "your answer is clever, Judge, but it is not enough. You speak of choices and power, but in the end, you fail to tell me what bird I hold in my hand. That is the only truth that matters." Arosh smiled gently, a quiet understanding in his eyes. "And yet, Malik," he replied, "it is the only truth that you yourself have chosen to overlook. You are so focused on what is visible, on the tangible, that you forget that the real nature of things often lies beyond what can be seen or held." The merchant clenched his jaw, his pride warring with his desire to win. "I have no need for your riddles or philosophical musings, Arosh. You fail to see the simple truth. If you cannot answer the question directly, you have failed. And I shall take your place." The crowd murmured, some in disbelief, others in support of the judge. It was clear to many that Malik's arrogance had clouded his judgment, and yet, they waited with bated breath to see how the challenge would unfold. The judge did not respond to Malik's taunts. Instead, he turned to the gathered people and addressed them, his voice strong yet serene. "Let us take a moment to consider what Malik has presented to us," Arosh said. "It is a riddle, yes, but it is also a reflection of how we view the world. How often do we focus on things that seem clear and simple, but in doing so, miss the greater truths? Malik asked me what bird he holds, but in reality, the bird is of no consequence. It is the meaning we ascribe to it that matters. The choices we make define not just our own lives, but the lives of those around us. This is the true power we hold." The words hung in the air like a gentle breeze, soft yet powerful. Malik's arrogance slowly began to erode as he listened to the judge's wisdom. He could feel the eyes of the crowd upon him, their judgment weighing heavily on his pride. "I see," Malik muttered, his voice quieter now. "But what does this mean for me, Judge? What will become of my challenge? I still demand that you answer the riddle directly. Otherwise, I shall claim my prize." Arosh turned to him, his expression kind but firm. "The riddle has been answered, Malik. But your desire for a simple solution, one that satisfies your ego, blinds you to the greater understanding at play. You came to me seeking to prove your superiority, but in doing so, you have missed the most important lesson." The merchant's brow furrowed, his frustration now mixing with a growing sense of doubt. "What lesson?" "You speak in riddles, Judge. What am I to learn?" Arosh's voice softened, and he spoke with the patience of one who had lived a lifetime of such exchanges. "You have learned, Malik, that true wisdom does not come from defeating others in a contest, nor from boasting about one's wealth or knowledge. Wisdom lies in humility and self-awareness. The bird you hold in your hand is symbolic, Malik, not of the world's power over you, but of your power over yourself. If you can control your pride, your arrogance, and your desires, then you will have mastered the greatest riddle of all." Malik stood motionless, the weight of the judge's words slowly sinking in. His mind raced as he thought about his life, his wealth, his position, his constant striving to be seen as the greatest among men. But now, in the presence of the judge's quiet wisdom, all of it seemed hollow, insignificant. The bird in his hand, the one he had believed would prove his superiority, had turned into a mirror reflecting his own flaws. As the crowd observed, they saw the change in the merchant's eyes. No longer filled with arrogance, they now held a quiet understanding. Malik had learned, perhaps for the first time, the true cost of pride. Chapter 3: The Merchant's Reflection. The marketplace fell into a hushed silence, as everyone awaited Malik's next move. For a long while, the proud merchant stood before the judge, his eyes clouded with confusion, his heart struggling to accept the lesson that had been laid before him. He had come to prove his superiority, to humiliate Arosh and take his place, but instead, the tables had turned. The answer to the riddle, simple yet profound, had shattered the very foundation of Malik's beliefs. Malik had built his life upon the idea that power came from wealth, that success was measured by what one could accumulate. For years, he had ruled over his affairs with an iron grip, believing himself to be invincible. But now, before the calm and unwavering Judge Arosh, he saw a different kind of power, one that did not come from gold or jewels, but from wisdom, humility, and understanding. As the crowd looked on, some with expectant faces, others with quiet admiration for the judge, Malik's inner turmoil deepened. He felt exposed, as if the layers of arrogance and self-importance he had built around himself were being peeled away. The bird in his hand, the one that had once symbolized his control over everything, now seemed like an empty shell, a symbol of his own emptiness. "Judge Arosh," Malik finally spoke, his voice unsteady. "I do not understand. You have answered the riddle in a way that I could not have imagined. But still, I cannot help but feel defeated. You have turned my challenge against me. How is it that a man such as you, without the wealth I possess, holds such power? How is it that your wisdom can rival the riches I have accumulated throughout my life?" Arosh regarded him quietly, his expression kind but firm. "You seek answers in wealth and status, Malik, but true power is not measured by what one possesses, but by how one uses what they have. It is not about having more than others, but about understanding oneself and the world around us." The merchant clenched his fists, the truth of Arosh's words gnawing at him. How often had he believed that his wealth made him untouchable? That his money, his lavish lifestyle, would shield him from the consequences of his actions? Yet, in the face of the judge's wisdom, Malik saw the fragility of his convictions. His wealth had not protected him from the emptiness he felt within. "I spent my life building this empire," Malik continued, his voice quieter now, "but now I wonder, what have I truly built? I have everything I ever wanted, but I feel no satisfaction, no peace. I have spent so many years seeking more, never stopping to question why." Arosh nodded thoughtfully. "You have built an empire, Malik, but not one of wisdom or kindness. You have gathered wealth, but not understanding. The world around you may change, but a person's inner peace is what remains constant. Your wealth cannot buy that, nor can it shield you from the lessons life has to offer." The judge paused for a moment, allowing the weight of his words to settle. "It is not too late, Malik. You are still young, and the lessons you have learned today can guide you on a different path. You can continue to pursue wealth, but now, you must seek wisdom alongside it. For wisdom will give you something that gold never will, a life filled with purpose, a life that touches others." Malik stood still, lost in thought. The truth that Arosh had spoken resonated deeply within him, stirring something he had long ignored. For the first time, he realized that his pursuit of wealth had been an empty one, a pursuit that had cost him his peace, his happiness, and perhaps his humanity. He had spent his life building walls around himself, thinking that they would protect him. But now, those walls seemed hollow, offering no shelter from the storm of realization that was washing over him. "I have been blind," Malik said at last, his voice breaking with the weight of his emotions. "I thought I had everything, but in truth, I had nothing that truly matters. My wealth cannot bring me the peace I seek. I must learn to live differently. Perhaps it is time I change." Judge Arosh smiled, his eyes filled with understanding. "The first step toward wisdom, Malik, is recognizing that we have much to learn. It is the humble heart that grows, the heart that seeks understanding and values what is truly important." The crowd, who had been watching this exchange with rapt attention, now felt a deep sense of respect for both the merchant and the judge. Malik's transformation was evident, and the people could see that the true victory lay not in the merchant's challenge, but in the shift in his heart. As Malik turned away, he walked through the market square with a newfound sense of purpose. No longer did he carry the weight of arrogance, nor did he seek to prove his superiority. He had been humbled, but not broken. His path was uncertain, but he now understood that true success lay not in the riches he had accumulated, but in the wisdom he had yet to gain. Chapter 4: The Merchant's Redemption. Months passed after that fateful day, and Malik's life had transformed in ways he had never imagined. The once proud merchant, who had been obsessed with wealth and status, now found himself on a new journey, one that was no longer about accumulating riches but about seeking wisdom and peace within. After his encounter with Judge Arosh, Malik had withdrawn from the hustle of his former life. He had closed his shops, sold off many of his possessions, and traveled to the outskirts of the town. His days were now filled with reflection, study, and quiet conversations with those who had once seemed insignificant to him. People noticed the change in Malik. No longer did he speak with arrogance or look down upon others, but instead, he listened with humility and sought to learn from every encounter. One day, after many months of living this quieter life, Malik returned to the town. The market square, once bustling with activity and noise, now seemed different to him. It was the same, yet in his transformed state, he saw it through new eyes. The merchants, the children playing in the streets, the old men sitting by the well, all of them were part of the greater world, and Malik now felt a connection to them that he had never felt before. He made his way to the court where Judge Arosh sat, as he had so often done in the past. The judge was now seated on his wooden stool, surrounded by the people who sought his counsel. The townsfolk greeted Malik with curiosity, for they had heard whispers of his change, but few had seen it firsthand. As Malik approached the judge, he bowed respectfully, something he had never done before. "Judge Arosh," Malik said, his voice steady but filled with gratitude. "It has been many months since we last spoke, and in that time, I have learned more than I could ever have imagined. I sought wealth and power, believing they would bring me happiness. But it was only in losing them that I found something greater, something I never knew I needed." Arosh looked up at him, his eyes soft with understanding. "I see you have walked a long road, Malik. And it seems you have found the greatest treasure of all." Malik smiled, a deep sense of peace settling within him. "I have learned that true wealth is not in gold or jewels, but in the heart. It is in kindness, humility, and the pursuit of wisdom. I have come to understand that a person who has everything but lacks understanding has nothing at all. I have wasted many years, but now I want to make amends." The judge nodded, pleased with the merchant's words. "And you will, Malik. But remember, the journey of redemption is a lifelong one. There will always be more to learn, and there will always be challenges ahead. The path you walk now is not one of ease, but it is one that will bring you true fulfillment." Malik bowed his head once more, a silent promise to continue on this new path, no matter the trials that lay ahead. He was no longer the proud merchant who had sought to prove his superiority, but a man who had come to understand the true meaning of power, the power of humility, self-awareness, and the pursuit of wisdom. As the days turned into months, Malik became a new kind of man. He shared his experiences with others, helping the less fortunate, teaching the young ones about the value of inner growth, and offering wisdom wherever he could. His wealth was no longer measured in material possessions, but in the lives he touched and the respect he earned. People came to him not because of his riches, but because of his kindness and insight. And so, Malik became a legend in the town, not for the empire he once built with his wealth, but for the empire he built with his heart. a heart that had once been hardened by pride but had now softened by wisdom and love. Years later, when Judge Arosh passed away, the people of the town, young and old, came together to honor him for his guidance. But they also remembered Malik, the merchant who had been transformed by the wisdom of the judge. His story became a symbol of redemption, of the power of change, and the importance of seeking wisdom above all else. Malik's legacy lived on, not as the richest merchant in the town, but as the man who learned that the true riches of life lie not in what we possess, but in what we give to others, in the lessons we learn, the love we share, and the wisdom we pass on. The true wealth, a journey of self-discovery. The pursuit of wealth, material success, and external validation has always been a central theme in human history. From ancient civilizations to modern societies, the quest to accumulate riches has shaped the way people live, think, and interact. However, there is an age-old lesson that transcends time and place, reminding us that the true wealth of life is not found in the tangible, but in the intangible. It is found in the wisdom we seek, the humility we practice, and the love we share. In a world driven by consumerism and competition, it is easy to fall into the trap of equating success with the accumulation of wealth. From the moment we are born, society teaches us to strive for more money, more possessions, more power. We are conditioned to believe that happiness lies in the material things we acquire, the social status we attain, and the accolades we receive. Yet, in this relentless pursuit of more, we often lose sight of the deeper truths that lie beneath the surface. The illusion of material wealth. Material wealth is seductive. It promises security, comfort, and a sense of accomplishment. For many, it becomes the ultimate goal, the measure of a life well lived. In this pursuit, people work long hours, sacrifice relationships, and compromise their values. The result is a life filled with possessions but devoid of meaning. While wealth may provide temporary pleasure or a sense of control, it cannot provide lasting peace or fulfillment. We have all witnessed examples of wealthy individuals who, despite their material success, are unhappy or unfulfilled. They may have mansions, expensive cars, and an abundance of luxuries, yet they suffer from loneliness, anxiety, or emptiness. This is because true wealth cannot be measured in gold or material possessions. It cannot be bought, sold, or traded. True wealth is not something external, it is something internal. The power of wisdom. Wisdom is one of the most valuable treasures we can seek in life. It is the ability to understand the deeper meaning of things, to see beyond the surface, and to make decisions that align with our true purpose. Wisdom is not simply knowledge, it is the application of knowledge in a way that fosters growth, understanding, and compassion. It is the ability to recognize the impermanence of material things and to seek what endures, the intangible qualities of the soul. The pursuit of wisdom is a lifelong journey. It requires openness to learning, a willingness to listen, and the humility to admit when we do not know something. Wisdom often comes from experiences, both good and bad, and from the lessons we learn along the way. It is a gift that deepens with time and reflection, and it is something that cannot be taken from us once we acquire it. While material wealth can be lost in an instant, wisdom is a treasure that stays with us, enriching our lives and the lives of those around us. Humility, the key to growth. Humility is another cornerstone of true wealth. It is the recognition that we do not know everything and that there is always room for growth. Humility allows us to remain open to new ideas, to listen to others, and to learn from our mistakes. It prevents us from becoming arrogant or complacent, and it keeps us grounded in the reality that no matter how much we accomplish, we are always in the process of becoming. Humility also allows us to see the worth in others. When we approach life with humility, we begin to understand that every person we meet has something valuable to offer. We learn to treat others with kindness, respect, and compassion. This is the essence of true wealth, the ability to connect with others, to build meaningful relationships, and to contribute to the greater good. The opposite of humility is arrogance, and arrogance blinds us to the deeper truths of life. It makes us believe that we are above others, that we know more, and that we are entitled to special treatment. Arrogance closes our hearts to learning, growth, and connection. It creates walls between us and the world, preventing us from experiencing the richness of human interaction and understanding. When we are arrogant, we are trapped in a cycle of comparison and competition, constantly measuring ourselves against others instead of focusing on our own growth and inner peace. The transformative power of love. Love is perhaps the greatest treasure of all. It is the force that binds us together, the foundation of every meaningful relationship, and the source of our deepest joy. True love is unconditional, selfless, and transformative. It has the power to heal wounds, bridge divides, and bring light into even the darkest corners of our lives. Love is not about what we receive, but about what we give. When we approach life with love for ourselves, for others, and for the world around us, we begin to experience a richness that goes far beyond material wealth. Love allows us to see beauty in the simplest things, to appreciate the moments that matter, and to build a life that is full of meaning and connection. It is in giving love freely that we experience its true power, for love multiplies when shared. Love is also the foundation of true wisdom and humility. It teaches us to be patient, to be kind, and to forgive. It shows us that no one is perfect, and that it is our flaws and imperfections that make us human. Love opens our hearts to change, to growth, and to the possibility of redemption. When we embrace love in all its forms, we discover a wealth that transcends any material possession, a wealth that nourishes the soul and brings peace to the heart. The journey of self-discovery. The journey to understanding the true meaning of wealth is not always easy. It requires us to look inward, to question the beliefs and values we have held for so long, and to challenge the assumptions that society has placed upon us. It requires us to let go of the illusion of control and to trust that the path we are meant to walk will lead us to where we need to be. In this journey, we may face moments of doubt, struggle, and loss. We may be tempted to return to the comforts of materialism, to seek refuge in external things. But it is in these moments that the true lesson becomes clear, that true wealth is found not in what we possess, but in how we live, how we treat others, and how we seek to grow. It is never too late to change. No matter how old we are, no matter how entrenched our habits may seem, we always have the power to choose a different path. We can choose to seek wisdom, to practice humility, and to live with love in our hearts. We can choose to rediscover the true treasures of life and to live in a way that honors our deepest values. Conclusion: the lasting legacy of true wealth. True wealth is not measured by the size of our bank accounts or the possessions we own. It is measured by the depth of our wisdom, the humility with which we approach life, and the love we share with others. It is the legacy we leave behind, not in material things, but in the lives we touch, the lessons we impart, and the relationships we nurture. When we open our hearts to learning, when we practice humility, and when we give love freely, we discover a wealth that is immeasurable and eternal. This wealth is not fleeting, it is the kind that stays with us, growing richer with each passing day, and it has the power to transform not only our own lives, but the lives of everyone we encounter. The true treasures of life are not found in gold or silver, but in the intangible qualities that make us human. And when we live in alignment with these values, we find peace within ourselves, a peace that no external circumstance can take away.